talking about the SANFL finals. Of course, they're on, and they had a magic weekend. Of course, if you barrack for Adelaide and you barrack for Glenelg, if you barrack for Norwood or Sturt, not too good. But our expert, Luke Marchioro, has been on this all year and predicted these two would get up and win. Luke, thanks for coming in, mate.
Thanks, guys. Don't think I predicted that Norwood result coming.
You didn't predict the result, but you did think Adelaide were going to win.
No, I didn't. I said last week to the boys, I thought Norwood...
I was away.
Had a few questions with over Adelaide's midfield, and we said if they could get enough supply into that forward line, they'd kick a winning score. So they dominated through the midfield in 73 inside 50s to 40. They gave their forwards plenty of chance, kicked a winning score in the end.
They could have won by more, mate.
And they probably should have.
100 points, Adelaide.
I think they might be buying some Grippo this week at West Lakes because their forwards dropped a lot of marks as well. And guys like Gallant and Himmelberg didn't play particularly well, and it was their smalls in Wright and McKenzie that kicked a lot of goals, and they were caused some headaches for that Norwood back line.
I mean, like they've come off, I think, a loss against Port Adelaide the week before, and Port were sort of down the bottom by a few points. Do you think that because they're settled in their side and they haven't got players that are coming in and out, and they're obviously wearing the Crows hat A grade, that they actually, because some of their players, their regular players actually played really, really well.
Yeah, their top-ups were really good on the weekend. Jay Boyle was fantastic through the midfield. They didn't have Crouch and Haitley in there. And the weird thing is, it's happened at AFL level. They took those two guys out and their midfield looked really dynamic. They played their kids in there through Boyle and Taylor and Nan Curvis, and they were really dynamic through the midfield. Had that burst of speed. Pedler was another one who kicked 3 goals playing up the ground as that high half forward. So the midfield mix was really different. And the other move they made was Matt Wright's played the half-back flank the last 6 weeks. He went back to full forward and kicked 5 goals, and Norwood didn't really have a match-up with him. It was something that they probably weren't expecting.
That was a surprise.
And it really hit the Crows really hit the scoreboard with it, and it was really smart coaching by Mick
You
Godden.
can miss that stability by having players keep coming back in, and you've got to play them in those particular roles. And I had a lot of frustration as I was coaching South, trying to put 3 or 4 players that really didn't want to be. They wanted to be with the Crows or Port back then, and I understand that. But now all of a sudden, those players aren't eligible, and they can actually just play in positions that they're probably best suited.
I think they're hungry. I think they've got a lot of kids that see opportunities to go up and play. Like, guys like Zach Taylor and Braden Cook and Nan Curvis, and they want an opportunity at the next level. And I think the best way to do it is to continue to perform. And under the pressure of finals, they really stood up on the weekend, a lot of those kids.
Norwood have been criticised for playing players that probably weren't fit enough to play anyway. I mean, they've missed a lot of footy. But when you look at it, Norwood didn't have an option here because their reserves finished.
They're out of the finals, so they missed the finals in the end, so they were half a game out. So it was either play them at SANFL level or not play them at all. So the 3 guys they brought in Nunn, Panos and Rokar only missed a week, was probably in their best on the weekend. But Nunn and Panos, you're probably picking them anyway. Matty Panos kicked a couple of goals, got better as it went on. And Matty Nunn was a bit quiet off a long layoff. But I don't think you would have brought those guys through the reserves anyway. If they're fit, you play them. And I think in a final they took that risk, and it probably didn't pay off on the weekend. But I don't think it would have mattered who they played through there. The Crows were pretty dominant all around.
Okay.
Licky, sometimes as coaches, and you guys have coached, we try and look at a simplistic part of the game. Is it as simple as Norwood are a really good defensive team? They've been the best defensive team this year in the SANFL and have had trouble scoring. The Crows have, at times have been brilliant at scoring. And they were able to hold them till half-time. Then the third quarter was kind of where the game really opened up. It was starting to open, but the third quarter, is it that Norwood just couldn't hold the Crows back?
I think it was a bit of that. I think the Crows beat Norwood at their own game. They were a little bit tougher and a bit harder, and the Crows were dominating that game at half-time, yet they were plus 15 or something in tackles as well. So they were just hungry at the man and hungry at the contest.
Yeah,
so
they hurt Norwood. I reckon there's going to be a couple of sore players.
They were really, really physical in that game, and they beat Norwood at their own game through the middle of the ground. And I think that was where they got the better of them in the end. Norwood have put some scores on the board, maybe not as much the last 3 or 4 weeks, but they've had options in Lau and McLean, and they both hit the scoreboard on the weekend. So they left Cam Tahini out as well, so he's another goal-kicking option that they might look at this weekend as well.
If you look at both of those games, I would have, from where I was, it just looked like Glenelg were going to beat Sturt. You could tell that early in the game. They just looked like they had Sturt's measure. And in the other game, and we just talked about, Adelaide, right from the get-go, looked like they were going to knock Norwood off. So I thought that result, Glenelg, I thought were going to beat Sturt anyway. Norwood was a surprise to me. But did you think both those games looked like that? That there wasn't going to be any comebacks from either Sturt or Norwood?
Sturt probably didn't capitalise on their opportunities in the first quarter. They were 2-2 to nothing in front. James Richards missed a shot at goal that would have put him 20-something points in front early in this first quarter. Glenelg went down and kicked a goal, and from there they were able to steady, level at quarter time, and then kicking with the wind kicked away. They played Liam McBean in the ruck. They dropped Angus Cole on the weekend. So they tried that with their forward line, and their younger kids really stood up. I thought Cooper Horsner was fantastic for Glenelg on the weekend as a high half-forward winger, kicked a couple of goals, and they played some kids and put a bit of speed through their forward line, and Sturt really struggled with that on the weekend.
That's been a good move, hasn't it, McBean?
McBean, yeah.
It has. And they've got options down there with Reynolds and Hosey to kick goals anyway, and Matty Allen's another one as well. So that makes their forward line a little bit less one-dimensional. They're not kicking to McBean all the time, and putting him in the ruck, he's so good around the ground. He's such a good user of the footy. It's given him another look, and especially without Luke Partington there, he played like an extra midfielder on the weekend.
We had Billy Stretch in here a couple of times to have a
yeah.
chat. He was one
well.
of the best.
Yeah, he played well.
Yeah, they've moved him out of the wing and into that inside midfielder role where he's probably a little bit more suited, and he's been really good. Corey Lyons is starting to find his feet through that midfield for them as well. So they've got some options through there, and with Partington being a test this week and whether he can get back in, again, it's another option and some more depth that they can add into that lineup as well.
And Bradley 200 games, so that was a fantastic win for that as well.
He's had some injuries to get to that 200.
And he's a fantastic player as well.
Yeah.
It's been really, really important for them. Max Proud and Angus Bradley in that back line for Glenelg have been real staples for them over this last little successful run that they've had, and it was a really good reward for them on the weekend for him to get a win.
Luke Reynolds got reported. He was reported in that game, did he? He got
reported, just a reprimand, so he'll get off. And Billy Frampton was the other one that got us, is being looked at for saluting to the crowd, we'll call it. But we're not sure what happened there, but I think he'll be able to play. I think he'll probably be a few bucks lighter on Mad Monday in a few weeks' time.
Interesting with Turner, though. I mean, he was best on ground against Norwood. Obviously, he came up halfway during the year to the Crows from Glenelg, that they do have the option, if they meet later in the finals, whether Glenelg will allow him to play or not. So that's very interesting.
A bit controversial. He played like he didn't want to play Glenelg if they got beaten on the weekend. He might take it out of their hands, but it's going to be a point of contention, definitely, especially if it's a preliminary final and those two teams are meeting. So be pretty interesting to take it away from him, but I can understand the reasonings from both sides.
Let's have a chat about the games on Sunday. Of course, Norwood up against Glenelg, 12:15, Adelaide Oval. What's your thoughts?
Split the games during the year 1-1. Norwood got them in a really wet night at Norwood a few weeks ago. I kind of like Glenelg on Adelaide Oval. I think the big ground suits them.
Yeah.
I think they play really well, and especially if Luke Partington can come back in, he can be a real difference maker in that midfield as well. If Glenelg's forward line, like they did on the weekend with Stagg and Horsnell and these quicker guys at the feet of Reynolds and Hosey, they might have plenty of avenues to go, and it might cause Norwood some headaches. So Norwood, the guys will be better for the run, but I kind of like Glenelg in that game to continue their momentum.
And old Finlayson in the ruck. Oh, I mean, McBean. Hasn't that worked? But
Roosters and Crows, mate? 3:15 Sunday.
Crows have had their measure this year as well, so I'm sort of leaning Adelaide. Historically, that team off that week off has really struggled to get into games, and if they give the Crows a head start, be it 2 or 3 goals, they might be really hard to catch, like we saw on the weekend. Jake Patmore, who's in doubt for North, is a big out, and he would probably play on, with a hamstring injury, so he would probably play on a right or someone like that, and it's one less defender that they've got as well. So there's plenty of experience in that North Adelaide lineup, but I generally like to favour the momentum in those semi-finals, so I'm probably going to stick with the Crows in that game.
I've just got to ask you one quick thing before you wrap it up.
Yep.
McGarry Medal, who's your pick?
I think Aaron Young from North Adelaide's had a fantastic year. I think it'll be him, Nick Rokar and Riley Knight will be in the top 3 or 4. And the other name to watch out for is Matty Snook, who's a noted bowler from Glenelg as well. Had a really fantastic year, so I think he's another game. And James Battersby as well from Sturt. His second half of the year was really, really good and could poll when they win games on the way home as well.
Look, you're always great to catch up with you, mate. You've gone with Glenelg and the Crows. I reckon it's the Roosters, but I'm a little bit biased, mate. But anyway, we'll be talking to you next week, mate. Look forward. It'll be a great weekend of footy. Get down Sunday, Adelaide Oval, 12:15 first game, second one at 3:15. Stay with us.